Cyberpunk 2077 has been launched, but instead of me rambling on, I'm just going to show you guys the differences in this whole video where we've got here low versus medium versus high versus ultra at 4K 60 FPS. So feel free to put this video on a big TV to see if you can tell all the differences. And also if you want to see what this game looks like in all its glory on its maximum settings on an RTX 3090. And the funny thing about this game is it can even bring the almighty 3090 to its knees. And we're talking like 20 FPS at 4K max with ray tracing on. But I'll let you guys be the judge with your eyes, and be sure to hit that like button for us early, because this one took a lot of time where Premiere was almost just crapping out with 4 images stacked over the top of each other in one different scene. Now we've also thrown in ray tracing as well as DLSS and the AMD Fidelity FX upscaling static feature. So get ready for all the eye candy your eyeballs can handle right after our sponsor spot, brought to you by Asus, M-Wave and Intel. Bringing you the ultimate gaming PC. At the thunderous core of this system is an Intel Core i7-10700KF, 8 cores and 16-threaded overclockable CPU that already goes to 5.1 GHz out of the box, powered by the ROG Strix Z490-G gaming Wi-Fi motherboard, which helps you get the most out of your gaming PC with uprated power delivery and optimized cooling for smooth FPS and cool operating temperatures. Intelligent controls let you manage overclocking, cooling, and networking settings easily, giving you everything you need to harness the full potential of your build for top-tier gaming performance. Though powering the graphics is the tough RTX 3080 with its tried and true Axial Tech fan design, we've covered this card on the channel, and it's amazing. Links in description below if you're interested in getting a PC like this. And now we're back into the comparison where we've got Night City up here yet again with the low, medium, high, and ultra detail settings. Now, one thing you'll notice about the roads is that they drastically change between low and medium settings. But then when we move on to high settings, you'll notice that the FPS changes a bit, but the detail is very similar. So you're going to be losing about 20% FPS from going from low to medium settings, and then you'll end up losing, say, another 15% going from medium to high settings. But then moving on to ultra, you lose an additional 10% on top of high settings, and you're not gaining a whole lot of visual fidelity. So medium settings is definitely where it's at in terms of a quick preset. Now we've got the ray tracing up here as well, which does use auto DLSS. But in this case, on the ray tracing presets, I find they do take a little bit of detail away from the texture of the roads. And you should be able to see this if you pull it up in full 4K glory on your monitors. However, you're probably wondering at this stage, what about the daytime? What's the daytime looking like? And here's where we're going to pull up the daytime in Night City yet again, with the obvious difference being between low and medium settings. This is for me personally when I'm looking at this, and I'm pulling this up, by the way, on a 4K OLED 55-inch. So the bigger the monitor you can pull this game up on, the easier it's going to be to see the differences, whether they're minute or big. And what I'm noticing is, yet again in the daytime, there's some huge differences between low and medium. But that being said, the low settings preset in Cyberpunk 2077 is still gorgeous, and it's still absolutely playable on this game. It looks really good. It's just, if you want to get that big boost in visual fidelity, then definitely do change that from low to medium. Now going to high settings here, for me personally, it didn't do a whole lot. And in some cases, in the daylight especially, you can see when the preset turns on things like chromatic aberration and depth of field. I personally am not a big fan of these settings. I just like to keep them off. So wherever my eyeballs end up gravitating towards, I can see more detail in that area at the given time, especially if I'm doing a mission or I'm on a certain task and I want to see every detail and pick things up. Though the next setting we've got up here is the floors. Like, this is just in the city at nighttime, and we can see that the low, medium, high, and ultra settings, the presets, don't take advantage of the ray trace reflections. Though you will see yet again the detail difference between the low settings and the medium settings. Now, there are reflections that are built into the game's engine itself by default. However, these don't look anywhere near as good as the ray trace reflections in this game, and we'll pull that up very soon for you guys after you just see the difference between the high settings and the ultra quality settings. But do ignore that bogan who keeps walking back and forward in the shot. He seems to love getting a bit of camera time. Though now, switching to ray tracing, we can see that the puddle and everything else just changes completely here, where you now got ray trace reflections, and you've got definitely dynamic. If I was to move, for example, then those ray trace reflections do move around with the camera. So ray tracing in this game, I will give credit where credit's due. It looks absolutely phenomenal, though I'll continue the settings here with custom settings that I'm dialing in for how I play this game personally at the moment, where we go with the medium setting preset and we switch on anisotropic settings to 16x, and then we leave on ray tracing and DLSS on quality. And you see that it gives a similar effect, but gives us the best sweet spot for FPS. Next up, we have Night City before you meet the Ripple Doc who puts some implants in your cybernetics core. And this one's a big one between low and medium. You'll notice, like just all the other comparisons, there are some big differences, especially looking at the second floor right in the center. You'll see it all light up very soon on medium. But then we move over to high settings. There's not a whole lot of a difference. I mean, between medium and low, you may notice some of the characters in the background look a little bit more detailed than they do on the low settings. Of course, the FPS does pretty much, that drop is universal between all the different settings that we're seeing in all these scenes here. But the 4K high doesn't have a whole lot more to offer over 4K medium. Though what you'll see with Ultra is actually some pretty subtle differences if you're looking close enough, especially on those neon kanji lights that are wrote above the nightclub. And that's that they do, I guess, beam off more detail on the reflections or the wall. Though when we turn on ray tracing, it doesn't actually do a whole lot in this scene. I'd say in this particular scene, it's probably out of all the recordings I've done in today's video, and actually all the playing I've done, this scene's probably the least noticeable in terms of differences between ray tracing off and on. Though one thing you will notice when you turn it on ultra ray tracing is the second floor does light up and change a lot. And the top part also does start to become a bit pixelated. So there are trade-offs going with the Ultra 4K, which uses DLSS auto on performance. However, what I'm going to show you now is no DLSS on 4K Ultra settings. And you'll see the FPS drops down to 20. This is when people are saying RTX 3090 4K, 20 FPS max settings. This is it. This is what you're looking at. Does look gorgeous, but you won't be able to play the game at 20 FPS. I can tell you that. The one I'm pulling up now is custom settings, which I'll show you a little bit later. These are the custom settings I'm playing at. Medium settings, DLSS quality, 16 anisotropic filtering, and it looks gorgeous with ray tracing on medium and reflections on medium. Then we pull up another example here with ultra ray tracing setting with DLSS auto and no DLSS. But for this next comparison here, we are in the big city during the day, and this one's really good for edges, and more edges. We've got a lot of sharp edges here to the point where you will see a big difference. Yet again, going from that low settings preset, and it comes in the form of especially that Kabaya food symbol in the background. You've got the lowest anisotropic filtering setting set with, I guess, unoptimal shadows, where you can really see a big difference here if you pixel peep between the two. And the medium settings, it just looks gorgeous as it is. Though when we start stepping it up to high and ultra, I really was hard pressed to find big differences besides very minor differences pixel peeping, and that's probably to do with the higher anisotropic filtering settings, which is why I'm using a custom blend of anisotropic on 16x on the medium settings preset, because it's giving me that good FPS, or at least playable FPS, but still giving me an absolute gorgeous picture. So what we're learning here is that for all these examples that I'm showing you guys, Medium's the way to go if you're on PC at the moment, but then change it to 16x anisotropic filtering. Now, this next one we got here is just pretty much another example between medium ray tracing and ultra ray tracing, where if you look hard enough, you will see the performance mode, which I believe is what they're using for ultra ray tracing. Performance mode DLSS doesn't work as good as the quality mode DLSS. So if you're using DLSS, definitely set this to quality. Though, next thing we're going to talk about here is, of course, HDR. Now, I can't show you guys HDR in this video, unfortunately, because it just looks washed out. This is, if I try to show you, this is exactly what you're going to see. It's just a complete washed out image. And also when I tried to record it, we were getting some real weird bugs, like Jackie was just teleporting and stuff like that. So there's that comparison out the window. Though what I'll show you now is 4K custom. This is my custom settings that I use. You see it looks awesome. DLSS is turned off, but then I'll turn on DLSS for quality and you guys can check. Then you see the FPS goes up literally like 50%. It's huge. It's a big boost. And the quality looks very similar. And you're getting pretty much the same detail. Now, same goes for the custom Fidelity FX static on 80. That looked really good as well when I checked that out. Though the colors did change quite a bit. I found it to be a bit more of a contrasty picture between DLSS and the Fidelity FX on 80. And the FPS was slightly better on DLSS quality. And speaking of DLSS, we've got a quality comparison here between no DLSS versus the quality setting versus balanced versus performance. Now, all four of these settings are really good. I wouldn't personally use the ultra performance I found on both monitors that I was testing on here. It just looked really bad. Even though the FPS was good, it just looked bad. But on my 4K OLED, I'm using DLSS quality, and then on the Super-Ultrawide, I'm using performance. So DLSS is definitely worth turning on in Cyberpunk, but do tune it to your personal preference. And with all those comparisons aside, do drop a comment in the comment section below if you are playing this game or if it's just too difficult to run on your PC. I will say one thing, this game is definitely pushing the hardware limits in 2020. It looks absolutely phenomenal, but the thing is about this game is the story is absolutely amazing. Like, I'm having so much fun pulling out this samurai sword and just chopping the proverbial shiz up everywhere. It's a lot of fun. They've done a great job on this game. And I mean, look, there's some bugs where I hold tab and I jump sometimes and I can meditate. And there's also like times when I can run really fast. But those bugs aside, the story is amazing. The gameplay is amazing. And the visual fidelity is absolutely gorgeous. This game is jaw-dropping to the point where, like, I was driving the other day and it was raining. And I'm just noticing, like, wow, all the reflections off the road in real life, which is something I've never really paid attention to in real life. But because this game has such a realistic look to it, and it's coupled with that 2077 sort of vibe, if that's what happens in 2077, I mean, who knows? The world could go that way. But this game is one that's pushing the boundaries of graphics. And it's gorgeous. It's eye candy. Though before we get on out of here, do keep in mind that this is a comparison done on PC. I have heard that the PS4, especially the last gen consoles and the Xbox One X, the game looks hideous on those too. I mean, yeah, PC gaming's where it's at. You guys know I love PC gaming, and I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, then be sure to hit that like button for us. Also, let us know below what was your favorite scene in today's video, and I look forward to catching you in another tech video very soon. Peace out for now. Bye.